So go to EC2, launch instance. So name this as a Docker, Ubuntu. So any operating system you want, you can take. An instance type, okay, T2 dot T3 dot anything fine. And guys, Docker's default port is port 80. Docker's default port is port 80. So Docker works on which port number is 80. So security groups, default, and the launch instance. So make sure port 80 is running. So in the security rules, make sure your port 80 is running. See, port 80 is open. So let's connect to the server. First update the server. And the command to install Docker. So command to install Docker is apt install docker.io-y. So this is how you install Docker. Apt install docker.io. A simple straightforward command to install Docker. So Docker is installed, and to check Docker version, so docker --version. So by this you can verify whether Docker is installed or not. So the first thing, after Docker is installed, you have to create a Docker file. So first let us pull some images. So some images, see, if it is a public image, you can directly download. If it is a private image, you require some permissions to make use of the Docker image. So we'll create our own custom Docker image, and we'll see how we can work with that. So the name of the Docker file itself is a Docker file. So the name of the Docker file itself is a Docker file. So vi Docker file. So it can be either a capital or a small letter of D. So D can be capital or small letter. So anything will work. But the name should be like this. It is a standard process. If you change the Docker file to other name and all, it won't work. So it has to be Docker file. Press enter. So inside this Docker file, you have to write your Docker instructions. You have to write your Docker instructions. So what are the most commonly used instructions? From, run, copy, etc. So we'll use from as an instruction. So it has to start with a capital letter. So the instructions should always be in a caps. Okay, from. And from which image you wanted to create. So say for example, I want some Ubuntu image. Ubuntu latest. Or else, so let's say some older versions if you want. So say for example, so what is the current version we are using? 22.04. So something like if you want higher version or if you want lower version also you can use. So let me use latest tag here and run instruction. So first let me update the servers. So apt update. So this is another command. Next another instruction. So we'll what we'll write here. I wanted to create some folders. So how can I create? mkdir / root. So today is Thursday, right? Thursday. And so inside this Thursday file I wanted some content. I wanted a file and I wanted to have some content. So how can I write it? So mkdir -p. So next I wanted some content. Echo hello world in /root Thursday. And next what else we can install? Suppose if I wanted to install some packages, right? Run apt install some Java will install. Okay, and other things, install maven -y. And if you wanted to copy any file from the local system or your EC2 machine to your Docker image, so you can use copy and put the file and put the destination where you wanted to have. So we'll see this a bit later. So this is fine, I guess. So these are called as manifest. So these are called your instructions and these are the commands which you are executing. So guys, if you run like this, see what happens. See how many layers of comments you will be having. See, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers. So here what happens, if you have more layers of Docker instructions, your image will be loaded up with too much load. Okay, so in order to reduce the layers, what we can do, instead of writing in this traditional form, even you can do like this. So all have the same set of instruction, right? So if you feel like everything is having the same set of instructions, you can use and. See here, I can use it as a and even here also I have the same set of instruction. I can use like this, and even here also I have same run instruction. I can use like this. So I can use a single instruction followed with and I can write the command to reduce the number of layers. Okay, so that your image will not have that much load. If you feel like you can do this, or else even if you have much layers also, it's not a problem, but you have to increase the capacity of your EC2 instance or your local server. So we'll follow the traditional way. So run. So run means it will execute the command. And what about copy? Copy will copy the content. And if you wanted to go to specific directory, see, this maven and all, no, you won't install in the root path. So where you will install this /opt only, right? So if you wanted to change the directory, so you can use work dir /opt. So it will enter into this working directory, and here it will try to install maven. Okay, and if you have any special folders where you wanted to install anything, no, it will try to install in that particular folder. So work directory is to specifically mention the working path where you wanted to install or set up anything. Okay, so like this you can use all these commands. So right now I won't use all this, I'll just use run and from commands. So once you have some good hands on, we can use other commands like cmd, entry point, work directory, add user, so all the other instructions. So clear guys how to write it? So just like your shell scripting, how do you write your shell scripting? But the only thing which is differing here is writing the instruction. In shell scripting you won't write any instructions, but here you will write some instructions, right? So after this you have to save and exit. So as per the diagram which we discussed, what is happening? From Docker file you have to create a Docker image. So how to create a Docker image? You have to use docker build. So let's use docker build -t. So -t stands for giving a proper tag for your image. Okay, so the name of the image can be any name. So let's name it as our Ubuntu my image. So let's name your image as Ubuntu my image. So this is your image name, and this will be your image tag. So image name along with the image tag you have to write, and followed with a dot. So don't forget to put a dot. So what does this dot represent here? It is the current location of your Docker file. See, I am in the same place where the Docker is located. Docker file is located. So if you check, so ls. So I am in the same place where Docker file is located. So suppose if your Docker file is in other location, and where the command you are executing some other location, then you have to mention the proper path followed with a dot. So first docker build -t, name of the image along with the tag followed with dot. See, if your Docker file is in other location, so what you can do, you have to mention the path followed with a dot. Clear? So as I am already in the place where Docker file is located, I can just use a dot. So if you forget to put a dot, it will throw an error. So press enter. See, it is showing 6 layers. So from Ubuntu, it is executing the second stage. It is updating the server. Okay, so what is the error here? What is the error you are getting? If you see, we haven't mentioned any text file because Thursday itself is a directory. So we have to, will edit this. We have an error. So it should be, so inside Thursday, let's keep some index.html file. Okay, save and exit and build the image again. Even if you reduce the layers also, same process will happen. It will show what are all the commands which is executing. So run, see there is another error here. So what it should be, a bit is missing. Then if you see successfully built and successfully tagged. So how to check the images? Docker images. See, I have created only one image, but in the images it is showing two images. What may be the reason? See, I have created only one image to create, but here you can see two images. One is the latest and other is my custom image. So why this happens now? In the Docker file, if you remember, we have used the first instruction as from. So if you use from now, so it will try to download a base image first. It will try to download a base image first, and on top of the base image, it will create your custom image. Okay, see, for example, if you use another tool also, first it will try to download a base image, and on top of the base image it will download your custom image. So we have converted your Docker file to Docker image. Now how to convert your Docker image to container? So this is the command, docker run you have to use. So Docker build is for, what is Docker build is for? Converting Docker file to Docker image, and Docker run is for converting Docker image to container. So here you will be using some flags like these things, -it, -d and -p, some flags you will be using. So why these flags and where it is used will tell you. So if you are trying to open a AMI type of thing, or if you are trying to open any operating system images like Ubuntu, CentOS, Amazon Linux, Mac OS, etc. So you can't create Docker image for Windows because Windows doesn't have this CLI type of thing. So only CLI based type of images you can create in a Docker image. So if here we use Ubuntu, so other types of command line interfaces are Amazon Linux, Mac OS, CentOS, RHEL, Red Hat, Kali Linux. So if you want these types of operating systems to be downloaded, you can use -it. So -it stands for interactive terminal. -it stands for interactive terminal. So guys, they will ask you for use cases also. When will you use -it? When will you use -p? These things and all they will ask you. So -it you will use when you are launching operating system images. When you are using operating system images. So this Ubuntu is like a operating system, right? So here I need to use -it, so interactive terminal, and along with -d also you have to use. Along with -d also you have to use. So -d is for detached mode. -d stands for detached mode. So together combining, I can have interactive terminal in detached mode. That means either you can attach or detach whenever it is required. You can attach a container and you can detach a container. And if you don't -d, you can detach. So -d is for detach mode, where you can attach the container and detach the container from the Docker. And -it, interactive terminal. Because why interactive terminal? So what is the meaning of interactive terminal? The terminal which interacts with the user. So if I write anything, it has to give me a response. That is called as interaction. So the terminal which responds to the user is interactive terminal. So if you don't use -it or interactive terminal, you may not be able to enter into the container. Clear? You may not be able to enter into the container to do any configurations or changes. So I wanted to enter into the container and do some modifications or changes. So that's the reason I will use IT in detached mode. So either you can use like this, or else you can use in a single line. -itd also you can use, or else -it space -d you can use. So anything will work. So -itd and name of your image. So this is my image, right? Ubuntu, sorry, Ubuntu my image. So docker run -itd, the name of the image along with the tag name. So if you are using -itd, and definitely you have to use these path also. Okay, so if you are using -it, immediately you have to use /bin/bash and press enter. See, one alphanumerical code has been generated. So that code is your container ID. That code is your container ID. And how do I check the containers? Docker ps. So I'll remove this other. So that was created by unknowingly I have touched one enter, so that's why it has been created. See, an image has been created. So this is your container ID, from which image you have built this ID and what commands it can execute. So /bin/bash means, so in your shell scripting, if you write at the top, no, you will write a syntax /bin/bash. So that means in the interactive terminal you can execute your shell commands or Linux commands, right? And when it is created, how long it been running? So as this is not some web server or anything, so it is not having any ports. If it is a web server like Nginx or Tomcat, etc., it will have some ports, but this is not our any web server. So this is your container name. Container name by default it will be creating, but if you wanted to have your own container name also, it is possible. So first try to understand this command which we executed previously. Then we'll see how to use a proper name for your container. So if you wanted to have your own container name, you can pass another name here, -name. So you can pass on another flag called -name, so that your container will be having a proper name. So press enter. So now check docker ps. So can you see the container has been created as per the name which I have given. But in future, if you wanted to change the name of the container, you can use docker rename the old container name and the new container name. So say for example, see this is the name which by default it has given. So docker rename the old name and the new name. So new name can be network issue. Press enter and check docker ps. See the name has been renamed. So like this, as per your requirement, if you wanted to give a default name, you can provide, and if you wanted to change the container name, you can change the container name. And what is the command to check the running containers? Docker ps. ps stands for process status. ps stands for process status. So docker ps will show the running containers. Docker ps will show the running containers. And now I wanted to enter into the container. So what is the container which I wanted to enter? So any container, if you wanted to enter into this container, so you can use docker attach. So guys, please focus here. So please focus here. So if I use docker attach space the container name, see from your EC2 instance you entered into a docker container. So this can be matched with this, right? So this is how you enter into the container. So this container will be having all the pre-installed commands which we have executed while we are creating this docker file. So first maven should be installed, right? So let's check mvn ---- version. See, maven is installed, and I have asked it to create a Thursday folder, and if I enter into here, see there is an index file where it should be hello world. So whatever you have given in the docker file, so that docker file will be converted to docker image, and same thing will be converted to docker container. So this is how you enter into the container. So how to exit from the container? So you have two options. One is either you can write exit. So see, if I type exit, what happens to the container? See what happened to the container? If I use exit, the container got killed. So where you can see the killed containers? Docker ps -a. You can see the killed container. So what is the killed container? See, this is the killed container, which is 18 seconds ago, right? And how to make the container, stopped container or killed container, alive again? So you can use docker start and the name of the container which you wanted to start. So container started. If you check docker ps, you will get the container back. And what if you wanted to stop the container? Same way, docker stop and the container name. So say for example, I wanted to delete this container. So docker stop and the container name. So the container will get stopped. Okay, container stopped. and if you check in docker ps, it won't be visible. See, it won't be visible. And we'll delete the containers which are running in the killed state. So how to check docker ps-a and docker rm and the name of the containers. See, don't kill the, you can't remove the running containers. You can only remove the containers which are killed. So this bits new is running currently, right? You can see all other containers are killed. Exited means killed. So if it is showing as up and time now, that means that container is still running. So you can't remove the running container. If you wanted to remove the running container, first you have to stop it and then delete. So I wanted to remove these containers. So docker rm, this is running, and this is also running, and this container is also like killed and it is in the death state. So enter. So all the things, all the containers will get deleted, and you can see only the container which is running. And we have used exit so that the container will get killed. So my point is, if I come out of the container now, the container should not get killed. I wanted to exit from the container, but the container should not get killed. So in that case, this command works. So docker attach. So I entered into the container. So exit, what it will do? It will exit from the container, but the container will get killed. So I don't want my container to get killed. So in that case, you have to use Control PQ. Press Control in your keyboard along with PQ. Control PQ. You will exit from the container, and the status of the container will remain running. So that is what the difference between exit and Control PQ. So exit, what it will do? You will exit from the container, but the container will get killed. But using Control PQ, will keep the container in the running state. So these are some of the Docker commands. So these are some of the Docker commands. So now Docker build, what it will do? So clearly note down. Docker build, what it will do? Docker run, what it will do? Docker stop, what it will do? Docker rename, what it will do? Docker attach, what it will do? Docker start, what it will do? What is Docker ps, ps-a, and what is attach? So clearly mention and write down. So what does Docker build do? What does Docker build do? Converts your Docker file to Docker image. And what does Docker run do? Converts your image to container. And what does Docker images do? What is Docker images used for? To show what are all the images. And what is Docker ps? To show the containers. To show the killed containers, ps-a. And what does this Docker rename do? Rename the containers. And what does Docker attach do? You enters into the container. And exit, container will get killed. Control PQ, container will be in a steady state or running state. And next Docker attach, you will enter into the container. Docker stop, will stop the container. Docker start will start the container. Docker rm will remove the container. And there is another command called docker rmi. What is docker rmi? Remove the images. So clearly note down, guys. So if it is not visible to the last benches, okay. So next we'll launch a Docker image which is running a web server. So for that we'll take Nginx web server. We'll take Nginx web server and create a Nginx Docker image. And later we'll see how to store these images in public and private repositories. And in tomorrow's class we will be discussing on ECS, Fargate, and EKS also we'll try to cover.